welcome everybody, and we look forward to 2022. I want to welcome Miss Janice back. It's good to have you back, Janice. Let me lead us in a word of prayer, please. Now, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the opportunity we have. Father, just grant us wisdom as we go about the JWSC's business. Thank you for the healing of Janice's shoulder and that she's able to come back to work. And we just pray for all of our staff members, Father, they would have a safe year and their families would be safe. And bless this time and just help us to glorify you. It's in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
There's no public comment. First item is approval of the minutes from the December 15th, 2021 Facilities Committee meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve as submitted.
I'll second the motion.
Motion second, all in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is GFA loan time extension. Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. GFA loan, when we got the GFA loan for doing the Academy Creek work and some CIPP work, it was supposed to be completed within 2 years, which would be running up in May. The plant project is taking longer due to supply chain issues. The screens, for example, are 6 months behind schedule. So the request here is to execute a time extension on that loan for completion of the project so that we can continue expending those funds. The time extension takes it through the end of the next fiscal year, so it'll be June 30th, 2023, somehow. That we'll be requesting to complete these by. Documentation here has been approved in theory by GFA, so we just want to make sure we get this taken care of so we can finish paying for that project with the loan.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the Facilities Committee recommend the full commission approve the modification to time extension for GFA loan CW 2019008 in the form of the attached resolution.
Second. And am I to are we to understand that the staff at GFA supports this request?
That is correct.
Thank you.
So we're requesting an extension for final use of all the funds, is that correct?
That's correct. We now, if this is approved and approved by GFA on their end, we'll be able to expend funds through June 30th of 23 for completion of that project and the CIPP project.
Is the CIPP project finished?
No, sir, it's not finished yet. We were trying to get the plant project mostly finished so in case there was any change orders or anything necessary on that project before we kick that off. So as we're getting to the end of the Academy Creek project, we'll get that CIPP project started.
And how much of the $15 million have we expended so far?
$6 million, give or take. Of course, the screens are over $1 million whenever they show up. So
we spent $6 million of 15.
right now, yes, sir.
And so by extending it, we're having to pay, what's the interest rate on this loan?
2.38%.
So we're paying 2% interest on that $6 million we've already drawn down from GFA.
That's correct.
Interim.
Just interest. We're not paying principal back until the money is completely expended or until the projects are completed.
So by continuing, we're just, the interest is increasing 2%.
That's correct.
Based on the money that we've already expended.
That's correct.
What's the other option other than extending this?
The other option would be to pay for it out of our internal funds, which would we'd have to basically completely rework future capital plans.
But the project was for Academy, Dunbar, and the sewer rehab.
Originally, yes, sir, and then it just became Academy and the sewer rehab.
But the original scope of it,
Right.
as far as GFA is concerned, is includes Dunbar, sewer rehab, and Academy, right?
Yes, sir.
But we don't have enough other money that we could use that we've already spent on other rehab projects, like Altama, some of these others, that way we could stop paying that 2% interest.
Sure. I mean, we could fund the remaining $9 million out of our internal funds, but that'll basically be all of next year's capital projects.
Yeah, well, I know that, but I mean, I'm saying, could we pay off something that we've already paid for and get reimbursed from GFA for that, even though we paid for it up front?
We haven't talked to them about that, so I do not
That
know.
way we can close the loan out.
Right.
And save paying that 2% interest. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir, I understand. Yes, sir, but we haven't talked to them about that, about substituting projects for the loan for repayment. But we could certainly go to them about that. Even if we do the time extension today, we can still go to them about that, and if we close it out earlier, it's still the same benefit. This just gives us an extra year to finish.
Yeah, but this way we'd be transferring we'd be saving the 2% interest over a whole year.
Right, that's correct.
Because I know some communities, that interest really adds up to a whole lot of money before it's over with.
Yes, sir. I mean, 2% on 15 million, $300,000 a year, is that right?
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is letter of support to Georgia State Properties Commission. Mr. Burrs?
Yes, sir. Morningstar Children and Family Services owns a little over 125 acres off of Highway 99 in North Glynn County, where they provide residential and community counseling services for children, youth, and their families. And they also provide homes for developmentally delayed youth and counseling services to traumatized and abused youth from across the state. We've been in discussions with them about the purchase of a portion of the unimproved acreage owned by Morningstar off of Highway 99 for the construction of public water and sewer infrastructure for benefit of the area in the North Mainland. Currently, the state of Georgia holds reversionary interest in the Morningstar campus that prevents the sale of the property. Morningstar has petitioned the state to release these reversionary interests to further aid the public missions of both Morningstar and the Joint Water and Sewer Commission. So the request today is to approve a letter of support from the commission for this reversionary interest clause to be released. Has to be approved by the state legislature, so thus the importance of getting it done now while they're in session.
I'll offer the motion that the Facilities Committee recommend to the full commission approval of the submission of a letter of support for Morningstar Children and Family Services Incorporated for the release of the state of Georgia's reversionary interest in Morningstar's real property in Glynn County.
Motion and second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 2-0. Thank you. Move to the discussion section, water pollution control plant flows. Mr. Burrs?
Yes, sir. Down at Academy Creek, it was a dry month. You'll notice on the rainfall totals, just over an inch of rain for the entire month of December, with most of that falling in a single day. So effluent flows of 6 million for the month, and by the end of the month, we were down under 5.5 million, but for the average of 6 million. You do see we got the alkalinity readings on the report this month that you've been requesting. You see the influent alkalinity just shy of 200, which is fairly standard. Effluent alkalinity of just under 100. Usually if you get 50 to 100, you're getting near the area where you need to start adding alkalinity, but these numbers came in higher than anticipated. Alkalinity is the buffering capacity of the water to withstand pH changes, and it is consumed as part of the solids and BOD removal process. So with that being said, because the rainfall totals were down, you see the influent concentrations for BOD and TSS close to the 250 that we would expect to see under standard domestic waste, and the plant handled it very well. Well in compliance with every parameter that we have on our permit, 96% removal of both BOD and TSS for the month. One thing I will note, the monthly water meter readings have went up substantially since the last time you saw this report, because we determined there was being an error by our wastewater staff in reading the water meter numbers that they were reporting to us. So we have since adjusted those to the accurate readings from the billing system.
So our billing system was right, but what they were reading was wrong.
They were going out, looking at it in the field, and reporting the wrong number on the report that was being submitted.
How many zeros were they missing?
A whole one, so we're off by a factor of 10. So if you look at the graph on the back, flows fluctuate throughout the year, but very much in line with where we were for the previous 12 months as flows at Academy Creek. At Dunbar Creek, flows for the month down in the 3 range coming in and out of the plant. You see the alkalinity a little lower leaving the facility there at Dunbar Creek, but still have sufficient alkalinity without necessarily having to add any more given our strong pH numbers there. But overall, that plant, again, still being operated with only one basin and doing very well. The 98%, 99% on TSS, 98% BOD removal. And so far this month, I haven't got the numbers from the first part of this week with the rainfall this weekend, but so far this month, we were down under 3 for the month at Dunbar Creek. And again, you see the increase in flows during the summertime with the rainy weather and the increase in tourists visiting our area, but all in all, flows remaining mostly consistent at Dunbar Creek for the past 24 months. And down at Southport at exit 29, flows were reduced with the low rainfall totals for the month. Again, you see very similar concentrations of alkalinity in and out at Southport that you saw at Dunbar. Plant still low on the influent concentrations due to the amount of water we get from the port from their facility, car washing facilities there, not a high strength waste. But the plant being operated very efficiently with 96% BOD removal and 98% TSS removal for the month. So all in all, our wastewater plant staff are doing a good job operating these facilities. All of them were in compliance, and the flows remaining consistent shows the efforts our systems pumping and maintenance crews are going to get I&I out of the system as well. So good job overall by our sewer staff on these projects.
I just noticed at Dunbar, we had about 20 tons more sludge.
Yes, sir. We had a bit of a belt press situation there at the end of November that we had to hold a little sludge extra, so we caught up in the month of December.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Andrew, looking at the alkalinity at Southport and Dunbar, we had a substantial decrease in the effluent alkalinity, which you would imagine you. But at Academy, we had substantially less alkalinity consumed. So that being said, it looks like we should be adding some alkalinity at Southport and Dunbar to maintain that, because obviously it's, when it gets down, it's 46.7 at Southport now.
We could certainly look at doing that. There would be some benefits to that, of course, give us a little more flexibility. You know, effluent pH is still strong leaving there, so we haven't seen a significant drop at those numbers. So,
Okay.
some of that is benefited by the fact that it's almost all domestic waste at both of those facilities. You don't have a lot of low pH material coming into either one of those facilities.
So what, I'm just looking at the pH coming in and going out for the last year. I mean, it looks fairly stable to me.
Yes, sir. As we improve the nitrification process at Academy, as the project comes along, what you'll start seeing happen at Academy with those numbers is the alkalinity will decrease, and you'll probably see a sharper decrease in the pH at Academy Creek as the nitrification increases. And then we'll have to potentially look at adding alkalinity so that we don't see too much of a drop in pH that would cause an effluent violation.
So what's the low number for us that we want to stay off of
Alkalinity?
on the pH?
pH 6.
6. Okay, I see it now. Thank you.
It's amazing that Southport and Dunbar both, they're not decreasing the pH, but Academy does decrease pH as it goes through the process.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that's a little bit unexpected from when we got the alkalinity readings. Of course, we've been doing them for the month of December, so we'll see how that trends over the next few months.
Does Penelope have a low pH discharge?
Yes,
So that's probably why Academy Creek has a lower effluent pH.
because it comes in after the meter.
Because it's after that.
That's correct.
What is their pH?
I do not know right off the top of my head. I don't think it's super low or anything, but it's lower than standard domestic wastewater.
Okay. All right. Next thing is the capital projects report. Mr. Clown and Mr. Burris.
All right, Commissioners, hey, welcome to the new year. Definitely a new year of capital projects. You'll notice our list has gotten a little bit smaller for this meeting, and especially welcome to new Commissioner Roll for joining us here. I'll go into maybe a little more detail on the projects for Commissioner Roll's benefit as she has joined us for this, but we did complete a couple projects at the end of last year, which is good. One of our big SPLOST projects did complete with 4003. First project on the picture report here, if you follow along, is 702. That is our pump station force main reroute on the north end or north mainland system. 4035 and 4036 pump station upgrades. Just left a startup at pump station 4035 this morning. Went well. We're in the process of developing the punch list now for that station. They were going to mosey on over to pump station 4036 and possibly do a soft startup on it today as well, while we've got all the pump talent in town. Top of the page there, you see some pictures. That's down in the dry pit of 4035. Mid-row, again, it's 4035 on the left, 4036 in the back area. Back along the canal off B&W Grade Road. One note of interest on that picture there is they're continuing the demo work in the old wet well, removing the old concrete staircase that's obsolete. They actually got a diamond wire cutter that they got arranged in there. If you've never seen that happen, that's pretty interesting to see. Bottom picture, you'll see the upstairs of 4036, should be 36 on top, yeah. And then down in the dry pit as well. The pump installation there. Now it looks a lot different even as of today. These pictures were taken within the last 2 weeks, week and a half, and so a lot of progress has even been made since then. But we're nearly approaching the completion on these two stations. We do expect in February, I think we're going to make that date. Next project is the force main portion of that project 702. That's progressing nicely as well. Top picture you'll see on the right is a portion of the water main extension that was done there. The water main is now complete. We're linked between Canal Road up to Harry Driggers Boulevard, Glencoe Parkway intersection now. So that loop is complete. It's online. Matter of fact, we've got the storage place. Canal Road storage is now switched over to the new main. That portion of the project's going very well. Now they're jumping back to complete the force main connections on Harry Driggers.
I will say on the water main portion, it's not, a reminder to everyone, the water main portion is not being paid by SPOST, it's paid separate. But that water main portion, there's a couple of businesses, the storage facility and I believe a Dollar General facility that's coming in that area that we're looking at having to run temporary water mains because of the project. We were able to get in there and get that done, and they're not going to have to go through those temporary water main expenses because we got in there and got that taken care of for them.
Good deal.
Yeah, timing worked out great on that. So contractor's done a good job in getting that line online and in service for us. You can see down on the bottom, if you've been in that area, you've seen possibly some of the traffic control going on and noticed some of the detours and whatnot. That's progress in motion. All right, if we flip over to project 704, next page, you can see the two stub outs from the shots of water main that have been put underneath the backside of Fletsy. There's two entrances back there that we directionally drilled. And then this will actually be finished by in-house forces, joint water and sewer operations staff will actually finish the water main installation down Glencoe Parkway in front of the airport to connect that major loop. So when that project is complete, it'll be tied in from the Glencoe Harry Driggers Boulevard intersection all the way down to the airport. This just shows the testing and flushing of those two directionally drilled crossings.
In-house forces got about 2,500 feet left, and they're trying to get that scheduled the next month to get that taken care of. A couple of smaller things they were going to knock out first, and then get out there and get that all connected.
Do we have the pipe in place?
Yes. Knock on wood. assuming.
We're
we
hoping to
haven't
get the
used it.
pipe in ground before it disappears and goes to other
Yes,
projects.
exactly.
I got the,
Pipe is a commodity for sure right now. Next project is Project 906, and I will let Mr. Burrows.
Yes, sir. In the upper left corner there, that is that steel structure behind is the offloading facility where the sludge from Dunbar and Southport will be roll-offed into that facility. And that auger there you see coming out goes into another feed hopper that goes into our drying facility. That auger, the supplier made a bit of an error in their production, and it came up about 8 foot short. So they had to start over again, but that's not going to be of any cost to us or to the contractor. The suppliers, unfortunately, for their purposes, having to eat that. On the right-hand side there, you see the electrical work ongoing at the effluent filter structure. If you have been down there in the past month, you've now seen a new canopy built over that facility, and startup for the filters is scheduled for next week. So, a couple of small things they're knocking out this week on the electrical to make sure they're ready to go, but the aqua aerobics rep is scheduled to come in on the 24th to start the startup procedures and provide training to staff. You see in the middle picture on the left, we're replacing some gates in the splitter boxes there. Those control how we control the flow to the different clarifiers. Those gates were non-functional, and if any of you have talked to our operators on site, that was a very key stress point for them, that the gates were non-functional. So we're getting, all the gates have been replaced. They now have control over where they're sending the flow. On the right middle, you see installation of the splitter box gates in the new splitter box that's been constructed. Not in service at this point, but it is constructed, and then early February they're going to make the connections to AB1, so we will be half on the old splitter box, half on the new splitter box for a few weeks while we're going through that process. But that has been coated, the gates are installed, the exterior's been rubbed. That looks very nice where they're at down there now. Clarifier 4 on the bottom left being rehabbed. They're actually going to cut that center well out. That circular center well will be cut out, and there'll be a new, I think it's an octagonal center well that's going in there. Helps distribute the flow more evenly across, so the solids settle out more evenly instead of short circuiting. The clarifier 3 and 4 are not getting the Stanford baffles because they already had a concrete shelf in there, but the other 4 clarifiers are getting baffles that keep solids from going up on the edges. And on the right, that is, so you'll see this at all 3 aeration basins. Those are the new recycled sludge lines that are coming in. You'll see a flow meter there. All 3 aeration basins will have separate metered RAS lines, so we know exactly how much RAS we're providing to each of the aeration basins. Gives us a lot more control if we have one basin that gets out of whack. Previously, all of it came back to one location into the splitter box, and if it didn't get distributed correctly because something happened, we'd have one basin that was high or low. Now we have direct RAS access to all 3 basins. So that'd be a big help for plant staff coming down there. So a lot of activity going on. Currently, the most pressing need is the screens. They were supposed to be delivered in January. We were notified. They've now been delayed to the end of March, as we talked about. So that's holding up the work on the front end of the plant because you got to get the screens installed before you can get the odor control covers and everything installed down there. But they're making progress on everything they can outside of the influence structure right now, so still working on the clarifiers and tie-ins on the RAS and everything like that. So, but getting the filter started up next week will be huge for the plant. It gives not a permit requirement to put the filters in, but it will give us better water quality leaving the facility.
On the clarifiers, are we repainting some of the old equipment in those?
We're touching up some areas. We're not doing full repaints.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Moving along, next project, 2001. This is grouped in with the 4105, 107 pump station upgrades, but this is the 4036 CIPP or cured in place pipe rehab. Essentially, we're taking old pipes that have wasted their lifespan and whatnot in poor shape, and we're inserting a fiberglass liner into them, renewing them, turning them basically into new pipes. So the column of pictures on the left is the before picture, and the corresponding picture to the right is the after picture. So I'll give you an idea. All right, so the top left picture here was one of our crossings under the railroad in Glencoe. or Glendale, excuse me, Glendale Drive, over kind of near exit 36. And you can see that's the casing right there, or excuse me, that's the carrier pipe. That's kind of the yellowish tint. It's just from the way that the light is hitting it and the way that the iron is discolored. That's an iron pipe. And then the outside wall that you see is the casing that is underneath the railroad tracks right there. Once it was cleaned, we saw that it was most assuredly time to replace this pipe, and that's it's good timing for this one. And the after picture there is it's in the exact same spot. You can see, looking at the footage counter, is that digital number.
So we actually replaced the pipe there.
It essentially replaced the pipe. That's correct.
We just didn't line it, we replaced
No,
it.
we lined it.
It's lined, yes, sir. So it's a new cured in place pipe. Yes, it's essentially a new pipe.
But we don't have any wall to the pipe right there in the picture, is that right?
That's correct.
The hose pipe is corroded
Non-existent.
away.
Non-existent.
When they did the heavy cleaning in here, a lot of times when we do the exploratory CCTV work to assign the grades 4s and 5s, to determine which pipes we're going to jump on first, including projects for lining or rehab. It still has a circular shape to it, but it's rust particles holding hands, essentially. And once they go and do the heavy cleaning, it knocks a lot of that corrosion off. You get down to what's the remnants of the base metal of the carrier pipe, and sometimes that's what we find right there. And one thing that we did stipulate with the contractor here, Bionomics, is we wanted them to have the bags or the new liners ready to go as soon as they do that heavy cleaning, just for this fact. We didn't want this sitting for very long at all for the risk of a collapse or anything like that. So they actually did it. Once they did the heavy cleaning, they actually went right back in the next night and zipped in the liners because they had them ready.
So, but to your, I think where you're going with this, Commissioner, yes, if there's no wall, there will be a slight deformation in the circular structure, but there's only so much. That bag will expand once it's full of water just because the material doesn't stretch that far. So it may be slightly deformed in some areas, but you still got a good channel for the flow to go down.
Definitely, and
Or at least it's in a carrier pipe, I mean,
Yes.
it's in a casing, it is,
Casing.
yes. So it's surprisingly enough, that's why we wanted the before and after shots here. That one on the right looks spectacular, especially considering the condition of the hose pipe. Like Mr. Burris said, that bag is going to inflate from the water pressure that they, the hot water that they pump in there. It's going to inflate to its full diameter, and that's exactly what I think. It just pushed the hose pipe out of the way, and
That's all that.
Was the carrier pipe a ductile line pipe there, or cast iron?
it's either, I don't know if it's ductile or cast, but it's one or the other. It's iron pipe for sure.
And what is the lifespan once you do this to the pipe?
They estimate 50 years. Now, that being said, they haven't been doing it for 50 years.
They're getting there. They're probably 20 years from being there, but
And how long have we been using it? What kind of?
Those clay, we've been installing CIPP for 10 or 15 years now.
I know Joint Water has for some time, and even the city before.
Right.
It's been a technology, it's been around for.
Right, and we haven't noticed any, no,
They,
problems.
the ones we've lined, we go back and have camera them after certain periods, and they look brand new.
Just point out the second picture in the middle to the left, that's a vitrified clay pipe. You can see an offset, and that's what happens sometimes. Off in the distance there's a joint that's offset actually. And then obviously there's a crack in the foreground you can see. Then there's the after shot. Another, again, you can see the little bit of reflection through the liner of the offset joint. But I tell you what, that water's going to flow just nicely through there. Plus not leak anymore. And then the bottom picture on the left, that picture is underneath the overpass at exit 36, underneath I-95. So what you see there is the carrier pipe is, when they did the heavy cleaning, there were some defects in the carrier pipe that gave way. There's a hole in it, and what you see beyond that is concrete. So we're not sure what concrete we're looking at, if it's just filler or if that's the footers of the bridge. We're not sure, but
It was
anyway.
not in the casing because the pipe was there before the interstate was.
Correct. That's a good point. So history lesson, as Mr. Burris pointed out, our sewer main was there before the interstate was built over the top of it. And so probably what they did is either encased it in concrete, hopefully, or, but there's no casing there, like you see in the top picture underneath the railroad. So anyway, we're, again, timing is great to have this liner there. and we no longer have to stay awake at
Now,
night.
with that being said, I mean, we talk about this CIPP product. Not only is it quicker to do it this way, it's very cost effective, and we're doing these entire segments for $900,000, which is a lot of money, but you can imagine if you had to open cut 4 sections underneath the interstate and the overpasses, I mean, first of all, GDOT probably wouldn't allow you to do that, but even if they would, the cost associated with that would be astronomical.
It'd be Jack and Bora.
Yep.
Absolutely. So very good project, very, very well worth the money there. Next project, 2021 galvanized replacements in-house project that our water distribution team continually pecks away at. And just a couple examples we'd like to show, and they really like showing us some of the goodies they dig out of the ground. But again, typical stuff you find with the galvanized and iron-based pipes. Corrosion, it can happen, and once you get a little pinhole, it's all said and done then. So, and there's Mr. Tim Cheek, one of our planning and construction division inspectors there in the bottom left picture, holding up a couple nice examples.
Do we use the same crew always to do this, or do we rotate crews?
It's mostly rotated. There's 5 water distribution crews. 2 of them are specialized for valves and hydrants, and the other 3 rotate through this project. So 3 of the 5 crews rotate through this project.
Seems to be one of their favorite ones.
Mr. Alvin Hall, who's our supervisor, is usually on these galvanized projects because he's very gung-ho about getting this galvanized pipe out of the ground.
You can see they're quite pleased.
Absolutely. Next project is another one that's closing out, so this will likely be the last time you see it on the project report, is Pump Station 4116 at the safety complex on the north end of the county. And this replaced a very small station that was put in when the safety complex was first built many years ago. And it's upgraded now to support several large developments, apartment complex type developments. Its capacity was accommodated in there for those developments, as well as the Georgia DOT, State Patrol, everybody else out there at the safety complex is in really good shape as far as sewer capacity out there now. Station looks real good.
It does. It looks very good, and I like our new standard over with that shelter over the switchgear.
Excellent.
Shelter over the switchgear, and I'll also point out that that is a standard that was developed in-house. So that rack set up with the 3 panels on one side, and there'll be 2 panels on the other side. And for SCADA and for a transfer switch, that's being installed at every new facility we have. It's very user-friendly, and the staff seems to really appreciate the updates we're making there.
Where will the generator fit when it comes in there? Where would it be?
It'll be well, they got to demo the electrical that you see in the middle there and get that out of the way. That's the old one, so we'll just back a generator up right in there, and there'll be quick connects on the back side of that, a new electrical structure.
And the 2 pipe connections there, that's to hook up a portable pump to pump in case.
That's
you
correct.
want
Influent and effluent coming out,
So we got-
suction and discharge.
We got redundancy and transfer switches plus hookups for portable pumps.
Yes, sir.
Are we gonna have those at every station?
Definitely going to have the bypass connections at every station and transfer switches at a lot of, particularly some of the ones that are more key. Sounds like a poor way of saying that, but some you can get out there with a vac con and suck down once a day versus some you need running continuously.
So more realistically, we put the additional redundancy at the, I'll call them the collector stations,
Right.
where they're, hesitate to call them regional, but
Right.
grouped.
That is correct. And you can also see where that old electrical stuff was, that those panels open up on top of
Yeah.
the old wet wells back there in the back. This station was basically an anthill. And if you open the wet well, you couldn't open the electrical panels because you'd be standing in the wet well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a.
Well, that was a compact design.
Yes,
Compact
yes,
design.
yes, quite the small footprint there.
Efficient use of space,
So
so.
you're
this-
standardizing the electrical panels pretty much on any new installation like this?
Yes. We have standard details that we send to engineers when they're doing pump stations of, here's what we want you to install.
Yeah,
And
and
this-
Commissioner, it's, the standard far exceeds what we have done in the past. Most of the, I'll call it the earlier generation stuff, it's end of life. It's some of them that the doors, it's questionable whether they'll latch because it really is end of life, not only electrically but mechanically.
Right.
The chain link fence around this one, is that our standard now?
That's the new black vinyl clad fencing we're putting up. We don't have on this one yet the black mesh, but we can get that installed on these. But yes, sir, that black
But we
vinyl.
will have those even on remote stations like
Yes,
this.
that's correct. Yes, so that's going to be the new standard when we rehab pump stations.
Can we inventory the other stations in neighborhoods and everything, and let's make sure those look good again? According to what Mr.
We'll be happy to do that, but we're gonna write some checks if we do that. So
I think we just need to understand the inventory and
We need
what would
to,
need to be necessary there?
we need to at
Right.
least repair them if they need to be repaired.
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. And just to touch on or add to the redundancy on this one station does support the Emergency Operations Center for Glynn County. So during a hurricane, this is a buzzing place out here.
Right.
Many occupants. So another good reason for us to get this one in good shape. All right, and meter replacements. I'll let Mr. Burrows touch on this.
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
LaDonna.
We're over almost 5,000 meters installed now, Ms. LaDonna?
Yes, sir.
So going through the meter project, you can see starting January the 5th, they got back on it pretty heavy. We're installing 70 to 90 meters a day going in, currently working mostly on the South Mainland districts and some on the North Mainland, going through putting these in. These are complete setup replacements. They come in and replace a lot of these setups, the yoke bar setup Ms. Roberts went through. So new backflow preventers, shut-off valves, meters and everything. So you can see quite a lot of inventory on that top picture there that's going in there. We've got standing orders for brass coming up, and so we're actually working with Glynn County to use the old animal control facility as a warehouse for staging all the materials.
Great.
Because once you start getting 30,000 meters and all the components together, you need some space. So we're looking at working through that right now. That project seems to be going very well. They've got multiple crews in town and trying to go through neighborhoods systematically now instead of kind of jumping around for the pilot phase. But been very pleased with the results we've got from these meters. In fact, the reason we found out about the previous error in meter reading at the wastewater plants because that one got a new 4-inch meter or 8-inch meter, I forget what size it is coming in there. And then we got the data and it's not a compound meter, it's an ultrasonic, so there's one number to look at instead of having to read two separate numbers, and figured out that that was a problem.
When they do the apartment complexes, are all those meters generally in one location they're all individual meters usually?
No, sir. They used to be the way we did it. We've now started allowing master metering at the edge of right of way for these new apartment complexes going in. There'll be an 8-inch meter at the gate, and then the apartment complex pays one bill.
But the older complexes, are those different?
Some of those are individually metered, and what you'll typically have in some areas is either banks of meters, just like 5 meters right beside each other in the sidewalk, or one of our apartment complexes has them in a room, which is not preferred.
Okay.
So how far are we along percentage-wise on the meter project?
15, 20%. Not 20% yet. We're getting close to 20%.
Okay, and last project on the construction report here is the priority basic clean and CCTV. That's an ongoing.
Yes, sir. We are cleaning about 71,000 linear feet. Contractors doing that. You see some of the goodies we find out there. That first one on the upper left is what you find a lot of, which is a bore through. Some of our likely telecom providers have decided to bore lines, and they don't realize that they've taken it through a sewer line. And so obviously not causing any problems now, but you can imagine if there's any sort of rags or debris that come down there, they wrap around that and cause a blockage. So when we find these, we have to go cut it out. You'll see some broken segments there. Broken would be if there's a more than a 1-inch gap fracture on the circumference there. Offsets, some of these things obviously we can't fix trenchlessly. Most of these we can fix trenchlessly. You see some nice I&I coming in on that bottom left picture there. They call that a gusher. Then an I&I, there's gushers, runners, and weepers. So learn your I&I lingo. Weepers are little drips. Runners are running along the circumference of the pipe, and gushers are fire hoses. So we really don't like to find the gushers. And then you see some of the sealing that, seals that are intruding on some of the gasketed pipe we have in the ground there on the bottom right. So they've through about 45,000 of the 71,000 linear feet of pipe.
And where are these pipes, basically, on St. Simon?
Let's see, these are pump station 2007, 2005, 2007. These are down around Devonwood Estates. So on the island, the pipes were hitting are some of the neighborhoods in between Devonwood and Black Banks along Frederica. And then on the mainland, we're hitting the branches off of the main trunk line we did on 35 when we lined that project on Whitlock. And then the 4021 basin, the branches off of Altama, and some on the 4WTP that drain directly to the wastewater plant. So these basins were selected because they were the highest priority I&I basins in the master plan. And then we'll take money from the bond issuance to rehab a lot of these pipes that we find.
Where we have the underground utility going through our pipe, what are we doing there?
Well, typically we'll go in and cut it out and they'll reroute around it, let them know about it if we can. Sometimes, if it's a water line that gets bored through, sometimes we just snake the water line through there because that's not that big of a deal. But on the gravity sewer, kind of difficult to relocate our gravity sewer. The ones that are really concerning are when it's the gas line.
Almost opened up a good conversation on 811 locates and who's responsible for what. And if it's not located, unfortunately, it's up to us to fix.
Yes.
If we can't identify where it's at and it gets hit, we get the luxury of fixing that. So. All right, that concludes the picture report. And just to reiterate, the picture report only includes projects that are in motion, in construction right now. So we do have many other projects that are in different stages of completion. List and this new year, new ones in design. So the accompanying spreadsheet report is always there. Happy to answer any questions there. Gives a lot more level of detail than the nuts and bolts of the project itself.
We'll bring up one project on that report that we need to discuss. The pump station 2002 force main. If you recall, we rejected those bids when they came in because they came in much higher than we expected, and we're relocating that proposed force main into the travel lane on Arnold Road out of the shoulder. We did receive the updated plans there. The question is going to be timing on the construction. Obviously, spring break coming up and then the summer tourist season. The question would be, do we want to try to get this put in April and early May in between spring break and Memorial Day, or do we want to wait till the fall until after the tourist season?
And so we moved it into the pavement.
Into the pavement, so it will require shutting down Arnold Road for a couple of weeks to get the pipe in the
We
ground.
didn't smart ball that force main.
We're still getting proposals on that, but
And my recommendation is sooner than later. Because we can deal with it now as a construction project. If we get a failure, we're going to be dealing with an emergency and still mess up the road.
right. So
It's my recommendation.
that's just the thing on the timing. We're still getting proposals on the smart ball technology, trying to get those around the holidays. It's been a little challenging.
We're trying to get the second vendor for that technology. I'm communicating with them right now.
On this list, the Oak Grove force main, we won't need to be putting that in there, right?
No, sir. Notified by the consultant for the private developer that was going to put that in, that project is a no-go. Right now, anyway, it's a no-go.
So that can be taken off our list.
That can be taken off our list now, yes, sir.
Won't change the money a whole lot. There's a lot of zeros across the across the road, but yes, sir. It'll free up some space on the road. Unfortunately, we're hoping that they can make that work eventually. All right. Second page of that as well. Then the schedules, as well as the EVA report.
EVA report, just real quick, schedule compliance at 82%. Remember, it doesn't go on here until money starts getting spent because it is a financial calculation. But 82% schedule compliance, still running a little ahead of schedule on cost, as in saving money, 2% lower than expected at this point of completion. and our total performance at 96%. Essentially, that is a measure of what are we putting an appropriate amount of effort into managing our projects. A 1 would be you're doing exactly the right amount of effort to keep them on track for what you're trying to do. So all in all, those are being managed very well. And now that the meter project is back in full swing, we expect that number to go up even higher.
How do you get above a 1 on that?
On what?
It's the last column, right?
Yeah, the last column, if you get above a 1 on the last column, that means you're not putting quite enough effort into managing your projects. If you're below 1, you're putting too much effort into managing your projects.
Okay.
Well, going back to the capital project status report, we've got a number of SPLOST projects there, and we're kind of down in the last, kind of on the glide path, I'll say, on finishing those. And it looks like all of those should be finished this calendar year, and most of them in the first half of this calendar year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a good thing that we're going to be completing those the first half of this year. We're commissioning those projects and putting them in service.
Community road, water and sewer, what's our status on that?
So, the engineer, we have communicated to them the intentions of that one. They're putting together a proposal for us and basically their plan to redesign that thing. So that's going to include dropping the wet well improvements there at the pump station, likely going up Haversham. I think it should be they don't expect it to be it's going to be a fairly straightforward design on there.
Now,
Nothing too complicated.
that does bring up a good point. The ARCO project has been awarded. We've had a pre-construction meeting. They have ordered materials, and I believe the notice to proceed date is Monday, the first full week in March, giving them time to get pipe here on that.
Have you had the pre-construction conference? And how are they gonna, what order of work are they gonna do on that? Do we know?
No, sir. At this point, we do not know.
Not yet, not yet.
They didn't give you a work schedule?
No, sir, we're waiting to get that. All right. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Anything else?
All for this meeting, sir.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.